Hello everyone, and welcome to our first video for Stat2D2 Online. This wasn't intentional. This virus has kind of thrown a wrench in our schooling plans, but we'll make the best of it. So, please keep watching these videos. Just kind of read through the notes. Make sure you read through the notes before watching the video has a link, and then watch the video, and then maybe try the example yourself, and then go back and rewatch, or pause when I say pause, something similar to that. And then, keep reading through the notes as you feel you're ready for the next section. So our first example here is about giraffes. So they are approximately normally distributed, their weights with a mean of 200 pounds and a standard deviation of 200 pounds. So our first task here is to draw a normal curve with the parameters labeled. So that's going to be our mean and the standard deviations away from the mean on the x-axis. We're then going to shade the area under the normal curve to the left of 2100. And we're going to answer this question. Suppose the area under the normal curve to the left was 0.3085. How do we interpret that result? What does that number mean? So parts A and B, and actually a little bit of C too, we've seen before with the empirical rule. So there's some review here, but again, before with the empirical rule, remember we were required that these x values on the x-axis would always be some nice multiple of the standard deviation. Now that is the case here for the sake of a simple example, but we'll very soon see examples where that is not the case. So I could ask you questions with a standard deviation being 205, 200.5, and you'd be able to answer that with the stuff we're about to cover. Okay, so here we first need to draw the normal curve. So I'm going to switch over to the Whiteboard app. Now I've installed this. It is a free Windows app. You can go to the Windows App Store and get it if you wish to try it. So here the first task is to draw our normal curve. So I will see a nice formal one here in a minute. But here is my normal curve. I'm just going to put my mean here. This is 2200. 2200. And I know it's not ideal here. Unfortunately, my computer does not have a touch screen. That's mute. This is our x-axis here. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's put the y-axis over here just for the completion of the plot. Okay, so here this is y. And remember, y with these normal probability plots is the probability of x. Okay, that's a capital X. Okay, so here we need to draw, we're told it's normal, so that tells us it's going to be approximately bell-shaped. And its standard deviation is 200. So here I'm going to go, let's say 200, 200, 200. So that would be 22, 24, 26, 28, 3000. Okay, so you can see my lines there of our 200 increments. 1, 2, 3. So this would be 2000, 1800, 1600, 1400, 1200, 1000. Now the reason I'm doing that is because we know if it's normally distributed that about plus and minus 3 standard deviations will be about the extent of our tails of our distribution. Okay, so in other words, okay, our mean, our middle of our normal curve is going to be here, and the tails are actually going to slope very quickly out. So something like this. And I'm adding these arrows. And again, I'm going to show you this in StatCrunch in a second so you can see a nicer plot. Okay, but here is maybe a rough estimate of what you draw on a piece of paper. Okay, so that is the first part, which is to draw. Now, the shading, I'm going to switch pencil colors. The PowerPoint asks us to shade the area to the left of 2100. So if 2200 is here, then to the left of 2200 is about here. And we would shade this area in here. And again, I'm about to pull up StatCrunch so you can see a nice, neater version of this. Okay, but we shade all the area to the left. Now, it doesn't technically stop there, it keeps going. So now that I said I'd show it in StatCrunch, now I will. So here we're going to go graph. Actually, I believe I aligned stat. And we're going to go calculator. And then we're going to go up to normal. And you'll notice this is a standard normal. It has mean 0 and standard deviation 1. So for the moment, it's standard normal. We're going to change this to be our mean. And we're going to change our standard deviation. And it wants us to shade to the left of 2100. So we're going to put 2100 in this box here. Because it's less than or equal to tells us to the left. Okay. Now, we get this much nicer diagram of what I just drew. Here we have f of x. Remember, f of x is the probability density function, the PDF, which is also the same thing I wrote before, the probability x equals or is less than or equal to a particular value. Okay, so here we have nice shading. Shaded to the left. This is again review. Okay, so the last question here is, suppose that the area under the normal curve to the left of x was 0.3085, and actually because I use StatCrunch, we can see it actually is 0.3085. So it's not just suppose. Sorry about that. That was the wrong click there. And so, how can we interpret that? Okay, so we have two interpretations that we've talked about a lot. One is probability and one is proportion. So one way to interpret this is simply if it's 0.3085, then the proportion of people randomly selected giraffes that have a weight less than or equal to 2100, the proportion would be about 0.3085. The other way to interpret is if we randomly selected a giraffe, the probability that its weight is less than or equal to 2100 pounds is 0.3085. We have the notion of probability now, so we can do that. So that's exactly what we're going to see if you look at the next slide of notes, which is a summary of these answers. So that concludes this short video. Look for the next one.